I'm sure you all know who we're talking about when we say Anthony Edwards. The University of Georgia freshman declared himself eligible for the 2020 draft. The combo guard is projected to be drafted in the top 5, with some forecasts even placing him as high as number 1. Who is this 18-year-old player, and what can he give to his future NBA team? Edwards was ranked number 4 in the overall standings and number 1 among the 2019 class guard in the ESPN Top 100, and chose to stay home to play with the Georgia Bulldogs. And that's how the player's commitment to his home state's university gave Georgia its first 5-star recruit and highest since Los Angeles Lakers guard Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, who was number 12 in the class of 2011. As major strengths, Edwards' size is one of his main weapons as the number 1 potential draft pick. With a height of 6'4", 224 pounds, and a wingspan of 6'7", he already has the body of an NBA player. In fact, he looks more like an NFL linebacker than a professional basketball player. He has broad shoulders that complement his strength, speed, and elite athletic ability, which fit perfectly with his style of play. Edwards already has great control of his body and knows how to use it to his advantage when attacking the hoop. He can finish at the rim well with contact at the college level, where he averaged 5.4 free throw attempts per game, a good volume for the NCAA, and his 77.2% success rate on the free throw line was better than expected. He also likes to run in transition and can finish with confidence using both hands. He's a solid rebounder for his position, and his defense is not something you should worry about. His jump shot was not as consistent as he probably would have liked in his year in Georgia, but there are no concerns regarding the mechanics and the point where he drops the ball. Edwards is a natural scorer with the ball in his hands, something that is evident with his 19.1 points per game average. On the other hand, we can't avoid seeing some weaknesses, something that the team that chooses him in the draft will have to take into account in the same way. Because if Edwards really wants to be a combo guard at the NBA level, he will have to develop his skills as a playmaker. He's a decent passer when the defense collapses on his rim penetrations, but he only averaged 2.8 assists per game, despite all the attention he generated from opposing defenders. At 30.4%, the second highest in the SEC conference, I would have liked to have seen that attendance record go up. Edwards shot 40.2% from the field and 29.4% in three-pointers in almost 16 shots per game in his college season, showing that his efficiency can be improved. Admittedly, he was the main focus of every opposing scouting, but his shooting records leave some question marks. He was great near the hoop, but it helped that he was stronger, faster, and more athletic than most of his opponents. He either penetrated directly into the hoop, or he took a longer than desired medium-distance shot, putting it in without consistency. If Edwards wants to be an effective scorer at the NBA level, he'll have to find clever ways to end up in the paint, whether it's a float or a short shoot. He has no confidence problems from long distance, and has regularly shot triples from NBA distance. His mechanics are good, but the results don't represent him as much. A great building block would be learning to shoot and score in general without the ball in his hands. He had promising flashes of cuts into the hoop, with some hard dunks and baskets, but most of his options from the perimeter came from him creating his own shot. His offensive play would benefit from some training and catch-and-shoot situations coming off the screens. His game is comparable, in terms of NBA professional players, to that of Donovan Mitchell or a Jaylen Brown, but the latter is not the names the Golden State Warriors will have in mind for the 2020 draft. This NBA draft has recently been rescheduled after the NBA owners approved the resumption of the competition in Orlando with a special format. It was scheduled for June 25th at the Barclays Center, but the date has already changed to October 15th, and there are still things to be decided regarding the location. With no game developed so far this year, the team's plans are not far behind what was dealt with before the season cancellations. In the case of the Warriors, the lottery has yet to endorse them as the first team to be chosen in the draft. They are the worst team, but it remains for the lottery to put them in that position. If that happens, they have two options: keep the position or look for a trade to choose later and get compensation for the deal. One of the journalists who follows the team closely, Connor Letourneau from San Francisco Chronicle, admits the plan was already being rumored. They will pick Anthony Edwards if they decide on the first option, and they have the number 1. The player has already made clear his thoughts in March. I think I should be number 1. There's no other place for me. Other options would be left behind, like Lamelo Ball, or go down a lot to get future draft choices. For example, what happened to James Wiseman, who was talked about so much as a safe option to be picked by the Golden? In the first place, the Golden State Warriors could have Wiseman as a favorite for the 2020 draft, where they will have many chances to pick a player of great conditions given his poor record in the still unfinished regular season, 15-50, the worst in the league. The San Francisco franchise seemed to have been dazzled by the performance of the center, who played at the University of Memphis until an NCAA sanction made him leave the campus and usual route of young players in the United States. The Warriors thought of Wiseman as a top prospect for their next draft, according to Bleacher Report reporter Rick Boucher. Golden State has a 14% chance of winning the number 1 draft if they end the regular season off with the worst record in the league. That's the same as the teams with the second and third worst records of the season. Even with a restart, the team Steve Kerr leaves is likely to be part of that core of franchises with the greatest number 1 option. And in that context, the Warriors had a considerable vacancy in the pivot position as Kevin Looney, who was the only player with such a demarcation, and only Dragan Bender, with a temporary contract for last season, was over 7 feet tall before the break. That way, it was possible for the Bay Area entity to go for Wiseman in the next draft, and James Wiseman was one of the leading candidates to be named first along with Anthony Edwards, Georgia, Lamelo Ball, Australia, or Obi Toppin, Dayton. There was also the possibility that the Warriors could choose Wiseman and exchange him for an interior piece of superior veterans that would allow them to compete again for the championship alongside Stephen Curry, Klay Thompson, Draymond Green, and Andrew Wiggins. But the reality is that Wiseman would not be the ideal choice, as good as he is a center, and the Warriors don't need to fill that position right now. So, with Wiseman ruled out, the other option to consider was LaMelo Ball. For some years now, the Ball family has been used to the spotlights and cameras, as LeVar Ball, entrepreneur and father of the 3 Ball boys, took it upon himself to turn them into a huge marketing product. However, Lonzo Ball's arrival in the NBA did not cause the sensation they had hoped for, while LiAngelo Ball barely managed to get a contract to play in the development league. However, all that could change very soon, since LaMelo Ball would arrive at the NBA draft almost with the certainty of being among the first 3 prospects to be chosen by a team. But still, reports indicate that the Golden State Warriors would have no interest in the Californian. Contrary to expectations, he would have nothing to do with his interfering, histrionic father, but simply some doubts about his potential. He has many flaws for a top 3 prospect. His vision and passing skills are superb, but he has yet to prove he can consistently score triples, defend NBA athletes, and improve his shooting selection. There is also the problem of positioning. Ball projects himself as a point guard, and the Warriors already have a very good one, a certain Stephen Curry, reported Connor Letourneau of the San Francisco Chronicle. Ball made a good impression in his A-League season, but it was abruptly ended by an injury, another reason to worry about whether or not he should be selected. Of course, his offensive talent is perhaps the most impressive and complete of all this class of the draft. But what he can bring is not something the Bay Area team needs. But on the other hand, faced with the possibility that the Golden State Warriors might consider the 18-year-old point guard, his father, LeVar Ball, made it clear that it would not be a big decision for either the team or the player, as he feels his son will not make it to the league in a secondary role. They have Klay and the other guys. He, LaMelo, doesn't need to do what they want. They have to let him do his thing, said LeVar. So, with Wiseman and Ball out of the picture, the 18-year-old prospect named Anthony Edwards becomes the strongest option. His profile has been closely followed by several NBA organizations, and by the looks of it, he is projected to be drafted at number 1. Edwards ends up being the clearest choice for the Warriors. He is a powerful point guard who has only been in college for 1 year, playing with the Bulldogs in the 2019-2020 season, and spending his entire life in his home state of Georgia. He has averaged 19.2 points in the NCAA. We hope you enjoyed the video. Make sure to subscribe to the channel and check out some of these videos that appear on your screen.